Kyle here from All Media Reviews, vinyl collection A to Z. Now the letter S. I'm finally, hopefully this is the take 3. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed, by the way. I'll mention that again. Thank you for subscribing recently. Thanks for anyone who found me on the Prog channel's, Sunday Prog stream. But anyway, so I've done this twice. I feel like I'm sick of talking about this stuff. So I have two, starting with the S's. I have Saigon Kick, the band from Florida who were sort of their first album came out in the early 90s. This is the debut album. I talked about this a few months ago because I picked this up. I have an extra copy, actually. I think it was a record store item. Anyway, I saw this at Agarda, and I already picked it up. But What You Say is my favorite track on this record. There's a couple others I like. Colors. What is it? My Life. It's kind of raw, but, they were combining, like, hair metal with funk and a little, they were kind of progressive, they would get more progressive. So then I have Water, the second album. That came out in 91, the self-titled. This came out in 93. This has, most known for the David Bowie cover of Space Oddity. The title track is another favorite on this one. On and On. I think I like this album a little more. I think they got a little more creative with the production on it, but I think they were kind of in a trajectory where I liked every record, kind of like the Police or some other bands, like where every record they went from, I liked the album after it more. But I don't have The Lizard, which came out, or I think it's just Lizard, on Record Store Day, I want to say in 2021. I never picked it up and haven't gone online. I need to do that. Devil in the Details is really the crown jewel that when I want to find that whenever, I hope it does get pressed on vinyl at some point, given the fact they just put the self-titled, and all three of these records I think came out in the last few years. So I have this David Sanchez and Tone album, Transformation, The Speed of Love, I got for like $2.90. I don't remember where it was. It may have been at like a thrift store or something like that. David Sanchez is best known, people that know him, he's a jazz fusion keyboard player. But he played with the E Street Band, Springsteen's band, for a while in the 70s. I'm not sure if he's the one who plays like all the piano parts on like Jungle Land. He might, and Thunder Road. But yeah, this is fusion. It came out in '76. The title track, Transformation, Speed of Love, is all what's on the second side of it. So anyway, cool record that I am guilty in that I have yet to actually really listen to, but I know the name David Sanchez. I remember there was a guy on Mike Portnoy's forum who was really into David Sanchez, talked about it. He was totally into fusion. Anyway, so now I've come to Savatage. So I don't have all the Savatage albums, but I've always tried to look for them, or throughout the vinyl buying history, which is really most accurate the last, 10, 11, 12 years. Since I met my wife in 2011, she was already buying vinyl more regularly than I was at that point. So, but anyway, this is Savatage. The first one I've got is Savatage, the Hall and Mountain King. I believe, I don't know if this is the first album they worked with Paul O'Neill, but this is the Chris Oliva, and John Oliva was the lead singer, of course, era, 87 it came out. But this is a classic, it's a metal classic. Is it prog? You could say it's progressive in some ways. It's influenced by new wave of British heavy metal, of course, thrash. But they were Queen fans. I know that the guys in Trans-Siberian Orchestra were definitely ELP fans. But yeah, the title track is probably my go-to on this. But it's like a concept album. Just think about it. Very fantasy, Dungeons and Dragons, demons and wizards. The gold and the hammer. It's like Thor. It's like the druids. Anyway, Hall of the Mountain King. Power metal. They're one of the founding members of power metal, although they don't focus on speed as much as some power metal bands. Halloween was really more like I consider the first power metal band. Power metal doesn't seem right because it could be called speed metal, but So the next one I don't have any of the other records I'm meaning to get. Like, I have some of them on CD and I have them on tape. Gutter Ballet. And then Streets is the one I mean to get at some point soon. But I have Edge of Thorns, which is the first album that had Zach Stevens on vocals. Savatage, people don't know Savatage. They're from Florida. They came up in the early 80s or late 70s. And, first Trans-Siberian Orchestra that morphed out of them. But anyway, Edge of Thorns is a great record. John Oliva kind of had thrown out his voice. I don't know if it's because he smoked or just because he damaged it through, you know, all the screaming. Because he has a very distinct voice, vocals, and, you know, he screamed. You know, not screamed exactly like Dio or like not like Dio or like Rob Halford, but he had to scream and probably took a toll, and so that's why they got Zach Stevens to become their new singer. And you know, this album has Edge of Thorns, the title track. They write great title tracks. They're not alone in that. A lot of bands like that. He Carves the Stone, the second track on side A. Sleep, you know, and of course it has co-produced by John and Chris Oliva and Paul O'Neill. I always think of the cover reminds me of Genesis's Fountain of Salmacis with the woman at the like the pond or whatever, and the whatever you want to call this, some kind of pond, some kind of like Florida. You can see like an alligator there, but it looks something out of like a literature like artwork from many centuries ago, or biblical. So this is my go-to #1 record. I mentioned this when I got this a few months ago on, you know, a vinyl update. This is 1994. The Edge of Thorns came out in 93, so this is the next year. This, of course, followed with the record that they made. They wrote and recorded after the death of their original guitarist Chris Oliva, John's brother. But they also have, because of course they didn't have a guitarist, they recruited. I can't remember his name now. The guitarist they have on here was just a hired gun from Testament. I can't remember his name. I'll put his name in the comments. But no, this has Chance, which is like one of the greatest prog metal songs ever written. Very Queen-esque with the vocal layers and everything like that. I keep thinking of Eric Gillette. It's not Eric Gillette. It's I'm gonna have to look it up. Everyone experiences this whole thing where they, you know, and I think again when I went through this, I mean, I could open it up and probably just find the credits that way, I suppose, rather than. But this record, track to track, as I've talked about before, Skolnick, Alex Skolnick, that's who. It just works so well. Johnny Lee Middleton's the bass and Steve Wackels plays drums. You know, it says that in here. I'm not 100% certain that's all accurate, because this was really just John Oliva's like therapy project, you know, like writing it for his brother. I mean, obviously he got Zach to do the vocals, and they recruited Alex. And I think Alex did tour with them. They have the Live in Japan CD, which has Chance, but it's only like an abridged version of it, of course, because to do all those vocal lines would have been a bit much for the rest of the band. I just don't know if like the drum work and even the bass work were actually done by Wackels and Johnny Lee Middleton. Although Johnny Lee Middleton's been in the band the whole history, but I know just they were at a crossroads, unfortunately, at this. But when they made this, but I think maybe it came out that so good because of it. The title, Taunting Cobras, the title track, Stare into the Sun, Castles Burning, you know, Alone You Breathe, which is about was like dedicated to Chris Oliva. Nothing's Going On. It's just so good. The flow is so great. And this is my introduction to the band. I'd never heard them. It really made me want to get more into them. Even though it's not indicative of the sound they had initially because, of course, John's vocals and some of the songwriting. But, in fact, I would at some point want to do more in-depth, you know, track-by-track notes about this record. Maybe I'll do that at some point if I get the time. A lot of my favorite 50 or 100 albums, I'll do 20 minutes on one record. It'd probably be worth doing, like a re-review, a retrospective. So the next album, that was 94. 96, they did a concept album called Dead When They're Dead about some of the political and social stuff that were happening in Bosnia and Sarajevo, 1224. This is the album that had, you know, what was Carol the Bells became Trans-Siberian Orchestra's signature track that got everywhere. Really have a career out of. It's a pretty good record otherwise, though. You know, this is their first real... I mean, one of their first... I guess Streets, you could say, was an overt concept album. This was maybe the second one that was an overt concept album. The title track is good. This Is the Time, I've always enjoyed. Not What You See. There's a bonus track on here, The Storm, This Is the Time. Yeah, okay. I thought there's This Is the Time, maybe. This isn't what we meant. I remember when I was in high school, there was a lot of talk. We had a political science course where we talked about how there was this ethnic cleansing in Bosnia between the Serbs and I forget the other side, but that was largely drawn the story from this. And of course, it has the gargoyles kind of looking down upon that city. But Dead Winter Dead, 1996. And then, of course, they put out the next year their last, I don't know if in records, the last album I have, the last album with Zach Stevens as the lead singer, Wake of Magellan, which is a concept album of some kind too. Wake of Magellan was our third concept album and the second CD with the new lineup. For all of us, it was an enjoyable album to make. I believe that Al Pitrelli became their guitarist on Dead Winter Dead. Because again, Alex Golnick was a hired gun. I know he went back to Testament. He has a jazz group I know he played with. But this is great too. The production is really good on it. Let's see, Morning Sun's one of my favorites. The title track, The Storm, The Hourglass. It's another one. It's on side D, the last track. Anyway, so I don't have Poets and Madmen, which John Oliva took the vocal reins back, and eventually I want to get that. That song Morphine Child, people love. I revisited it recently and I remember why people loved it. It is really good. It's not as good as Chance, but it's damn good. I might do a top 10 or 20 Savatage or 50 Savatage. I don't know if I do 50. I could do a top 30 Savatage songs, and Morphine Child would certainly be in there. Anyway, so moving on, Brian Scary and the Shredding Tears. Flight of the Knife I showed this. I got into Brian Scary the last 6 months. I knew about him like a year or two ago, but his name is Chaotic Archives, I believe, now on YouTube and some other sites for my love of apes and androids and self and everything. But I love this album. I love a lot of the albums that they put out. I don't know if it's my favorite. I mean, I guess they're looking to repress. They may look to repress some of the other records that Brian Scary's put out, but this is great. The Purple Rocket's my favorite track. But it's filled with great piano progressive ELO-isms, among other things. Venus Ambassador is a favorite. La Madame on the Moon. The title, the opening and closing bookended parts, Flight of the Knife. Really, it's been one of my most played records over the last 6 months. That came out in 2008, I believe. Yeah, same year as Blood Moon, and a lot of other great records. So, not really indie-tronica, but somewhere close to that, like sort of dream pop with electronics. School of Seven Bells Alpinisms, the album that I saw. I got this at Amoeba, back in May, in Berkeley. Yeah, I saw them live and they won me over. It's a three-piece. Unfortunately, Ben Curtis isn't with us anymore. He was the guitarist, but the two twins. I saw them live when Warpaint opened for them, but I still like this album. I would probably lean toward this over the record that followed it, which I think was their last, unfortunately. And it's got I showed the Gateful. It's got like these Aborigines or something like that in the middle of it, but it's a cool kind of like the spectrum light with the mountains and stuff. It came out in I think this was 2008 as well. But anyway, Alpinisms from School of Seven Bells, the debut album. Now, Ben Curtis had been, I believe, with the Secret Machines initially. I don't know if he was always in them. I think they may have gone on after. He may have left the band. They played some music. So anyway, next I have Sculptured, the one Sculptured record on vinyl, the newest one that came out, I think it was 2021, The Liminal Phase. I honestly am not crazy about this. I mean, it was okay. I love, especially the previous record, but it was so many years. I know that they're working on another album because I know Hunter Ginn from Radical Research and the drummer who was in, I forget the name of his band. His other band, prog metal band, but I love this, like the other Sculptured records a lot. This record it kind of is thin. I mean, I don't know if ultimately I want to keep it, but I was really glad that we finally got a new record for them. It was from 2000 to 2008. It was 2008, so it was like 13, 14 years, something like that. But anyway, this is The Liminal Phase from 2021. Don Anderson of Agalloch, his project. So, okay, so moving on. I'm going to do the rest of this stack and then maybe stop and then do a part 2. So, here's my Self collection. I did a Self video a few years ago. A lot of people have been finding it. Thank you for that. I love Self. So here's got one copy of the debut album, Subliminal Plastic Motives, which is, it's a fun record, but it doesn't have a lot of my go-tos. Superstars one. Sophomore Jinx, Stewardess, but it's more, I don't know, you call it more there's more. It's more like raw, I guess. But a lot of it's called self music raw would be an understatement. But because he does everything basically self. I mean, he's had his brother play on some of the records, but I know his brother's not with us anymore. But anyway, Matt Mahaffey, I'm talking about specifically. So, and then I've got, that was it 95? 93 or 95, something like that. It was 2013, it was pressed in by Fat Possum Records, but I believe it was, I want to say it was 95. I know my self-history, I should know it better. But, it's interesting how this, yeah, the title isn't even on here. It's on the side, but on the cover of the record, it's on the side, you can even read that. But anyway, so here's, by some people's taking the best self record. I mean, splitting hairs. This is Gizmodery with all kids' instruments. Most well known for his cover of the Doobie Brothers' "What a Fool Believes." But the whole album was played with children's instruments, basically recorded and played with. Trunk Full of Amps is another huge highlight. That was the first self song I really liked, but. It has, it has Chameleon, Patty Cake, Ordinaire. Ordinaire is a definite highlight and go-to on this record. But it's, I mean, it's not prog and it's not metal in a sense. It's not metal at all. But it's definitely experimental, and that's why it works. And there's, he's just very creative. I've talked about this many times, and of course on the self video. I should be like linking all these videos I previously did. So I have Porno, Mint, and Grime, and Ornament and Crime. Ornament and Crime was really the more proper record. If I can go over the long story short, these albums were supposed to come out in 2005, but they didn't because the label weren't happy. He wasn't happy. It was supposed to come out basically as one, but the label wasn't happy with it, and so they couldn't agree upon it. So what happened was Ornament and Crime came out digitally in 2005. It was supposed to follow up Gizmodery, so that was wrong about 2005. There's a bunch of records between when this came out, Ornament and Crime, or EPs and records, and Gizmodery, which came out in 2000. But Porno, Mint, and Grime was a lot of the extra music, and that came out, I don't know if it came out digitally. It was just basically like a fan thing. He didn't do like a Kickstarter, but finally, in 2017, they issued these records on vinyl. He's able to do that with this Ada alternative, let's say El Camino Records. These are terrific. I mean, I'll only confess that while I love them, there's a lot of music on them, so I don't know like them beginning to end, like some of the other self records. But I can't remember. No, it's not on here. The one that I've been going back to a lot this year, the one that sounds so much like Jellyfish. It's like Summertime. I think it's called Summertime, but it's not on here. But, I mean, when I did that self video a couple years ago, I went through all the records, and I remember listening to both these records. I'm like, I need more time to just take all these in because there's so many good songs. More than half the music, there's probably like 16 really good tracks on this out of like 28 or something. So, but anyway, yeah, Ornament and Crime, this one is more conservative, more poppy, I guess, than Porno, Mint, and Crime. More Porno, Mint, and Grime, which is maybe a little more experimental, but there's some of each on each. I've got, of course, the 10-inch, which I showed on one of the first videos in this series of the last sort of proper release of his. He did the single, of course, but on Record Store Day, but super fake nice. So anyway, Shadow Gallery. I have the one Shadow Gallery record I think that's been issued on vinyl. This is the self-titled album, which, spoiler alert of any sorts, this is my favorite Shadow Gallery album also. Even though it has a drum machine, which still bugs me, but I would love to hear them re-record this with real drums. But the problem is Mike Baker, they couldn't re-record it, but they could take the original tracks and have someone record drums over it. But, this is fantastic. I love it. Initially, I didn't like them, and this is the first one I heard. I did not like Mike Baker's vocals. That it sounded too cheesy to me, but I grew to really enjoy and appreciate it. The Dance of Fools, Dark Town, Mystified Question. They're all just, there's so many moments. The progressive. It sounds like Queen. Sounds like Queensryche. Sounds like Pink Floyd. They're huge Pink Floyd fans. sounds like Rush. They have all those elements, but it doesn't sound purely derivative. Queen of the City of Ice is a lot of people's go-to. It's a 17-minute track, but you know, if the albums that followed ever come out on vinyl, I'll snatch them up probably. I mean, even Legacy, which wasn't great, or the last one, Digital Ghosts, but yeah, this is great. I was just like shocked to find this. I didn't even pay that much money. I think I paid like $30 for this. It was imported from somewhere overseas. I think it was Japan maybe. But this was actually issued on Roadrunner Records, which is weird because then I only knew them on Magna Carta, but you know, but Roadrunner's in Europe, so it's probably issued in Europe. That's probably why it was. It only came out probably on CD in the U.S. Even though it was like, and this came, I didn't even mention, this is the year it came out in 1992. This came out literally, I want to say weeks before or after. It does say Magna Carta. Interesting. Images and Words came out. You know, the second Dream Theater album. I find it really almost eerie. But anyway, Shadow Galleries. I mean, I don't know what the value on that thing is, but I gotta believe some of the hardcore fans would pay a lot of money for it. So I've got Ravi Shankar's at Monterey Pop Festival. I'm doing this in the correct order. This is a classic live record. Maybe his most well-known record, actually, because I know it's seen on many lists. And it's really improvisation, him playing, of course, the sitar, and I don't know if you've got like some other people, as Zakir was saying, some other people playing like djembe or tablas. But I know it's classic. I paid $1 for it at Half Price Books, you know, and the condition's pretty good. So yeah, Ravi Shankar, legend. You know, the late Ravi Shankar, you know, of course, had a big influence on George Harrison, especially. So Sigur Rós, I know the Taste Like Music guys just did a whole video, like a whole ranking of their albums and then songs lists, tracks lists. I've got the two probably most renowned records, although it's interesting how. So this is a reissue for that reissue, or I don't know if it was a reissue, but this was a record store item of Agita's Burzum, I pronounced it, from '99, and I would say, yeah, this has probably become their most like well-known and popular record, Sigur Rós. I'm not going to get into a lot of details, but I just find this record flows really well, and it has some really cool like goosebump moments where they start using chamber instruments, and you know, Jonesy's doing his kind of, you know, dreamy like operatic vocals. Of course, you know, the language is all made up. There's a title track on it, but yeah, this came out, I don't know what record store day it came out. I want to say mid-2010s, 2015, something like that. So then this one I got, and it was $50, but I got it at half off. This is a first pressing of the Brackets record. I don't know if there's an extra value. I know they've reissued it since. This, to me, when I got into Sigur Rós, I'm not like huge Sigur Rós fan, but I do like them. I got food poisoning once, and like listening to their music, that film, Harfheim, completely helped me out. I also saw that film when it was like 10 below on like December of like 2007 at the Uptown Theater. That was surreal. It was at midnight. So I've had some very remarkable experiences with Sigur Rós' music, but this to me always has been sort of the signature record. You're talking about Sigur Rós, it's, you call it parentheses or brackets, and it's just like whatever's a, you know, Untitled 1, Untitled 2. I love the sort of calming gentleness of this record. It's sort of a story. It's like a trip. So this is still my favorite Sigur Rós record, but I was really happy to be able to buy it, to find this, and then to save money on it. I don't know if there's more value on it because it's a first pressing, because I got this in like 2012, and they hadn't reissued at that point. So I don't know. Maybe back then it would have been worth more. I don't know. So okay, three more left. I've got two records from the. I didn't even say the years. This was Brackets was 2002, I believe. I said what. Agita's Burzum was '99, but Sicketh, the UK, I think they're from England, the British band Sicketh, who are, I don't call them gent. I don't really hear the much in their sound. I would call them sort of experimental progressive metalcore of a sorts. They're really unique. I don't think there's another band really that has done anything close to as interesting in the style. There's bands that kind of have been influenced by them, but so I've got Death of a Dead Day, their second album in 2006, And then the comeback EP of sorts when they did the reunion after they've been playing live for a number of years. I think it was 2015, Opus Cities, which I really like. I like both these albums. The Trees record I want to get, the debut album especially. I thought I actually ended up buying, maybe I didn't buy their most recent record, the record that followed this like a year or two later. Future and Who's Either or something like that. But Bland Street Bloom, Flogging the Horses, Where Do We Fall, Another Sinking Ship. I mean, they use the different kind of characterized vocals, sound like Gonzo from the Muppets. And some of them are like almost like Dr. Claw, like voiceovers and stuff like that. And then they just have these like crazy polyrhythms and dynamics. But I don't hear gent. Again, Sicketh, not a gent band. People are going to label them gent. I'm just going to say I don't hear it. You know, I don't doubt that they were fans of Meshuggah. But no, to me it's closer to Unexpect. Unexpect is, you know, more circus metal, but this is theatrical metalcore. I mean, Protest the Hero is the band that probably has the most similar qualities, but there's a lot of differences between them. And Protest the Hero doesn't use gent at all. So anyway, I'm going to drop the whole gent issue. Just I said my piece. But yeah, I like both of these records. They're a really unique band, who's, you know, again, progressive metal of sorts. You know, it's not Dream Theater or Symphony X. That kind of thing. I don't call Symphony X progressive metal anyway. I think they're a power metal band. But anyway. So the last record on this video, part 1 of the S's, is the one record I have from Silverchair, Young Modern, from 2007. The final Silverchair album probably will be the final. It's one album that I've enjoyed. I enjoyed in 2007 when it came out, but then I've enjoyed it more and more. It's a blue vinyl. I didn't just show it when I bought it. I know Vinyl Fury, he talked about it, he got it. I didn't realize it had been issued, but Young Modern Station, Straight Lines are both singles, pop bangers. Reflections of the Sound, I'd say the same thing. It's more of a ballad. Those Thieving Birds, Strange Behavior, and Those Thieving Birds too, that suite is just... I always hear it. Like, I'll listen to it, and I'll be hearing it in my head for days and days, you know. Mind Reader, Insomnia, all across the world. The orchestral arrangements from Van Dyke Parks, you know, that Van Dyke Parks from, the Beach Boys, is great. Of course, he worked on the previous full-length, which I'm spacing on, Diorama, as well, and I don't know if he worked on the Disassociatives, but no, and then David Bottrill did some mixing on this, I believe. His name's not on. Yeah, it is. It says mixed by David Bottrill. So David Bottrill's one of my favorites. So Young Modern from Silverchair, 2007, a great record to have in vinyl. So that's the first part of the S's. Thank you for watching. Again, please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Thank you for subscribing recently, and we'll see you next time.